We are. Hey everybody, we are going to talk about a question that I got from a viewer, and that is to answer the question, my baby is almost 10 months old, they're still not crawling, where on earth do I start? This mama had found my YouTube channel and she was like, okay, there are so many videos and resources that you have, which are amazing, and I really appreciate it. But where do I start? It feels a little bit overwhelming, and I will say that this is a great question, obviously. And if you are new and maybe you haven't had physical therapy before with any of your previous kiddos, this can feel like a really big thing to tackle. And I will also say that crawling itself is really tough, and there's a lot of moving pieces. So us, even as physical therapists, are always curious about the different things. So if you are on live and you do have any questions as I go through this information, definitely make sure, thank you for the thumbs up, definitely make sure to add the comment. And then as I get to a space, I will make sure to answer it. If you do only have a certain amount of time, make sure that you let me know and I will try to address your question before you have to go. So, okay, I want to show that question real quick. So this is Miss Leah. Thank you, Leah, for sharing this question. I'm going to drop the link as a reply. It was just I just have a lot more to say than just a simple text back and forth. Now, you guys all know that in all of my linked comments here, there is a link to request a online consultation with me, and that is probably the best thing if you have really in-depth questions. But if you're just looking about where to start, hopefully this will answer this question. So basically, there's a baby, they're 10 months, they're still not crawling, they can sit unsupported, but are struggling with some of those transitional movements like getting in and out of sitting and going from like maybe laying on their back to sitting. So what exercises would be best to start with? Now, the big thing with this is I want to kind of show you guys how I look at things and how I look at crawling movement in breaking down into a couple of different parts. So I've written them down here for you guys if you can't see them, but basically we're going to look at the mobility of a baby. We're going to look at the strength of their upper half of their body, and then we're going to look at the strength of their lower half of their body. We're going to look at how is their core moving and how strong is their core, and then we're going to look at coordination of movements. And this is where we actually start to go into more of those pre-crawling activities like rocking on all fours, actually getting into all fours, some of those transitional movements, getting from sitting into all fours and things like that. So I'm going to bring you guys over to the Learning to Crawl playlist, and we're going to try to kind of go through this together a little bit of where I would start. So when you are looking at the Learning to Crawl playlist, there are a ton of different things to do. So the Learning to Crawl playlist is going to have some of these activities like rocking on hands and knees. That is going to be in the number 5 category, which is really a crawling specific activity. 3 crawling exercises for infants. These are going to work on mostly kind of that last stage. Again, stage 5 of the coordination, reaching in all fours. This is going to be that upper half of the body. So let me kind of just show you, they're all a little bit all jumbled here. So we're going to go and look at mobility first. So one of the first activities we get to is how to stretch a baby's neck muscles. And this is actually going to look at the flexibility of the front of their neck, which is really important to be able to get into the all fours position. So some of these exercises, if you've been following my channel for a while, you may note that like they're in multiple sections. Like this exercise is actually going to also be in it's also going to be in the like rolling category, and maybe even sometimes in the walking category, things like that. So if I go to this video, we'll have to go through the ads, but you're going to look at bringing the baby back and either holding their hands as I am, which isolates a little bit more of their neck, or you can actually even allow the baby to reach their arms overhead and just kind of hold them on their chest. So you can actually have them reach totally overhead, and that's going to also work on shoulder mobility. So the reason why we want to make sure the neck is lengthened is that you want to know that the head can kind of come up when you're on all fours. If you don't have full mobility in the front of your neck, then being in the all fours position is going to be hard because you're not going to be able to activate those muscles as efficiently as you could otherwise. So that is a flexibility of the head and the neck. Now, the next flexibility exercises you're going to look at are the, let's see here, the kind of trunk rotation exercises. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do that in this playlist. You can test this position in when the baby is laying on their back. So over here, you can see that I'm bringing their lower trunk to the baby's right, and their left shoulder is kind of staying on the ground. So you can see this where I'm kind of stabilizing the left shoulder on the ground. This babe's fighting it a little bit in this direction. Their hips don't go very far. Now, I do prefer to actually put my hand more on the butt cheek and less on the actual leg these days. I find that I get a little bit more grip there, and it's a little bit more comfortable for the babe, and we can be a little bit more gentle on the hips. Now, this also kind of shows the positional hold. So this is the same direction. If you think of me as the ground and the shoulders are on the ground, they're actually on my chest, and my hand's kind of on that butt cheek, and I'm pulling that over. So this is showing rotation of the upper trunk and the lower trunk. And so this direction, this is my left arm, and it's going to holding her in left rotation, and then my hand is bringing her pelvis in right rotation. So in order for a baby to crawl, they have to be able to, see if you can see me. In order for a baby to crawl, they have to be able to kind of rotate at their trunk, and so their upper half of their body has to be able to go to one direction so that they can place their hands on the ground, go into a side sit position, which is like that Z-shaped position, then tilt their pelvis and go into all fours and then crawl. So we need to make sure that a baby has the ability to rotate at their trunk, and that's what this exercise is for. It shows the way that you can do it laying on the back, and then it also shows a way that you can do it in a positional hold in an upright position. This is the side sitting position that I talked about. Side sitting is going to be a way for you to look at core strength, but also for you to look at hip mobility. So this is where the comment was left. So I'm really glad that they're already in this position. So you can see that I shift the weight over and then I tuck that leg back. This is the position. You can see her bring both of her hands towards that front leg. That is going to be a precursor for crawling. So in order to go from sitting to crawling, you can get into the side sitting position, and then she's also where my hand is, she's actually activating that side of her trunk to stay up against gravity. So this is a really great core strength, but also works on mobility, and you can kind of see there that she's almost trying to kind of get into all fours, and I could help her transition those legs. Now, this is the side sitting just to work on side sitting, but you can also see in this playlist that there is the transition sitting to crawling video, which shows how we go from sitting to playing with both of our hands over to one side. And then we've got a slightly modified different type of side sitting there. And then you can kind of go over a boppy, and that's a supported all fours position. And then you can kind of try to work and play there. So the biggest thing with this activity is that you're going to help them actually transition by putting the side that you're going towards, that hand on the ground, bringing the other arm towards that, which requires, again, that upper trunk rotation. Oh man, you guys can't even see here. Sorry about that. Okay, so you couldn't even see what I was talking about, which is a bummer. I don't even know where I started. Okay, I just get in the groove. Okay, so this is, again, you guys can look at this video, but basically the biggest thing is you're going to want them inside sitting, and then you're bringing both hands to the side so that then you can kind of transition into all fours over that. And you can either have them over your leg, over a boppy. There's a million different, this is a really, really good video for you guys to kind of look at that transition. Now, if you try this transition and you're like, this is not quite working for me, then you have to figure out, okay, is it the trunk rotation? I would always go back to mobility. I would always go back to the upper trunk rotation. And I do also have an upper trunk rotation playlist so that you guys can kind of just have all of those in one area. So can the baby rotate their trunk side to side? If so, then it could be either upper trunk strength, lower trunk strength, or core strength. So those are kind of those three other things. Now, in order for a baby to get into crawling, they have to be able to push their arms straight into straight elbows and lift their chest off the ground. And they also need to be able to tuck their pelvis under. So they need to be able to grab their feet. Babies who go into extension a lot really struggle with that. And that could be a reason why they don't tolerate all fours. And then you also need a baby to be able to have some core strength, because gravity is always trying to push you to the ground. And so being in all fours requires a decent amount of abdominal strength to get there. So, okay, we know we need trunk mobility. We've got a couple of areas to go through with that. Now, upper trunk strength. So if I'm going to go to upper trunk strength, again, I'm going to look at, can they tolerate 10 to 15 minutes on their belly, pushing through their elbows? If not, then I'm going to go look at tummy time, because that is a precursor skill to crawling. If so, can they push their arms into extension, and are they able to lift their chest off the ground? If so, then the next thing I'm going to go do is look at a baby's ability to be able to hold a plank. So can they hold their weight through their extended arms if I pull their legs out of it? So this is going to help note if they're crashing through their elbows and they're like laying their head on the ground, then we might have an upper trunk strength issue. And so I'm going to look at anything that allows a baby to push through their arms. So I'm going to go into tummy time, where they're putting one elbow on the ground and they're reaching and playing with the other elbow. I'm going to look at playing on vertical or inclined surfaces when they're sitting, so that one hand can be pushing through that toy while we play with the other toy. And that's going to allow for babies to get strength through that upper trunk. Or I'm going to jump straight to the baby plank, and we're going to work on baby planks so that we can kind of further strengthen those arms. So that's what I'm looking at for upper trunk strength. Now let me see if I can find a video. Okay, here we go. So this video is going to talk about pushing through a hand on like a vertical surface. Sorry, we're still in commercial mode. And I did have a comment, so hopefully you are still on. Otherwise, definitely check the playlist. I just want to kind of get through these really quick for the individual who, who had asked the question. So this, you can see here, that right arm is pushing through an incline surface. So she's actually getting strengthening through that arm. You can do this in tall kneeling, which is the position she's going in right now. So this is tall kneeling, which is a great exercise for crawling because, so it's easier, right? You're still getting weight bearing through the knees, but you're not having to do all of gravity. Now, this is an older kiddo, same kiddo, just older. But you can see that she's putting some weight through that right arm. I'm going to try to get her to put a little bit more weight through the other arm. She doesn't need to put as much weight because she has a stronger core now, which is great. But if we go in here, you might need, so I'm going to block her knees in. And so you can see now that her left arm is really pushing through that incline. You could do the same thing at a wall or at a mirror. I've linked some toys in the description that have suction cups that I really like. And then also any type of push walker like this is going to be a vertical surface. You can also do a horizontal surface, but I do like a vertical surface because that's a little bit closer to babies being in the crawling position. Okay. So we are on to level 3, which is the lower extremities. So we've done mobility, upper trunk, lower trunk rotation, looking at upper trunk strength. So can a baby hold their body weight of their upper trunk, whether in a tall kneel position, an all fours position, or a like baby plank position? Can they keep their elbows extended without totally like crashing and putting their head on the ground or just laying their head on the ground? So the third section is going to be lower half strength. So you're looking at their ability to tuck their pelvis, grab their feet. So if they're laying on their back, can they grab their feet and hold that for, 10 to 15 to 30 seconds? Can they only grab one foot? Can they grab both foot? Or if you prop their bum up like on your feet, do they struggle with holding that tucked position? Because if they struggle on their back holding that tucked position where their bum is elevated in the air, then they're going to also struggle with the weight of the ground. So the ground provides a pressure through your knee, and your knee has to provide a pressure through the ground when you're in all fours, and your hips have to contract against that in order to maintain that all fours position. So ways that you can work on that include tall kneeling like this. I love tall kneeling positions. It's great because babies generally like this position unless for some reason they have significant hip weakness. I also really like if a baby does tolerate being in all fours, that's great. If you need a little bit of support, so here are a couple of those examples of like the suction cup toys that I really like. I like this one too. Here's another example of like the incline. These will all be linked. Let me go up real quick to a different section. And show you guys one thing that can be really helpful. So when you bring a baby on an incline, so if you come over here and you can kind of see this wedge. So if you go on an incline where their hands are like closer to the square, so on the higher part, and their knees are on the lower part, if your shoulders are elevated above the level of your hips, it's going to be easier. So if you have a baby who can be on all fours, but being on the ground on all fours is difficult, you can actually find something like a foam wedge like this, or even just having them go on their knees and put their hands on more of an elevated surface in kind of a modified tall kneeling position, that can decrease some of the workload on the core while still getting good benefits. And then you can work up towards being just straight quadruped or on all fours. Okay, so that is kind of some of the lower trunk strength. I like the side sitting position too. That one can be really great as far as being in side sitting, because it is working on hip strength just in a slightly different position. You want to make sure when you do side sitting that you're doing both sides. And that again is, let's see if I can show you this photo of side sitting really quick. So you guys know what I'm saying. Okay, so this is side sitting, right? So this is right side sitting with the right leg forward. And then you're going to also want to do left side sitting, which is just with this left leg forward and open like this one. And then she would tuck the opposite one. So I do like that from a lower extremity strength standpoint. And then let's see what else we've got. Okay, so we've got core endurance. So this one is going to be really important too. And I'm not going to have a chance actually to go through all of these. I feel like we're already at 20 minutes, which is crazy now. And so obviously you guys can see that there's so much to get into with crawling, that if you do have concerns, especially if you're getting closer to that 10 to 11th month range and your baby is not crawling, definitely make sure you reach out to a pediatric physical therapist, because crawling is so important for babies. All right, let's see. Where is the exercise I am looking for? Supine to sit. Maybe it is not. Ooh, it is not linked in this. All right, let me see if I can pull it up for you. I'll have to make sure. Sometimes as I release videos, I might accidentally miss it and not put it on a playlist. So that's why these are good. Okay, so here we go. So teaching a baby to sit up on their own. This video is going to be really important, especially for kiddos who are like 8 to 9 months. And we are going to teach them how to go from supine to side laying to sitting. If I can pull it up. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be on the floor. You can also, so you can see she's on the side, and then I switch my hands, and then she helps me push up. So this exercise is actually helping the side core muscles for babies that aren't always developed. Sometimes they're weaker. When we're crawling on all fours, we need to make sure that we are activating our side core muscles. And so I like working on this. I try to work up to about like 10 for a kiddo. If this is too difficult, then I would go back to working up to 10 of just straight sit-ups with support at the shoulders. And so you can look up that pull to sit exercise. So I'm over here, and you can do it on the couch surface, and then you can also do it on a stability ball, which would be here. This one's a little bit trickier because you have to do the ball and hold on to the baby. So definitely make sure you do this one nice and slow, but then you can give little bounces in between, which is really great vestibular support for a kiddo. So working up to 10 to 15 of these in a row can be really helpful from a core endurance standpoint. This is probably my number one core strength exercise. I also do like side sitting as a core strengthening exercise. And then a baby plank is also a good core strengthening exercise. I just feel like they're a little bit more in slightly other areas. But a lot of these exercises are multi-use. And so you can really focus on multiple things and get multiple bangs for your buck, if you will. Okay, so core endurance is really important because so you want to be able to do 10 in a row, sort of 5 on each side. Now let's just really quick do the pull to sit just so you guys have that. If you don't already know, there's actually like a search bar here, so you can type stuff in and search my channel too. So make sure you utilize that. If you are looking for things, I utilize it all the time. All right, so here we are gonna go, and we're working on tucking her head and neck. So I have my hands behind her shoulders. If any baby struggles with head control, you want to make sure those fingers go a little bit up at the head. You will go nice and slow. You can put a pillow underneath them and that will elevate them. So you can tell she's struggling there a little bit. She is getting tired, and going into extension can be hard. So it's okay to switch that up, give them some love. So you can see there, I'm going nice and slow down. So if the back to side to sit-ups is too difficult, then you can go back to just the regular sit-ups and work till about 10. And then you can go to move on to the other one once you've mastered this option. You can use the arms. I don't like to because I would rather go slow, and that works more on the head and neck muscles as well as the trunk muscles versus just the arm muscles. Plus, you want to be very careful with the baby's arm muscles and shoulder joints just in general. Then the last one is coordination, and I will get to your question really quick right after that. Hopefully this wasn't too crazy. If you guys do have follow-up questions, just drop them in the comments. I am writing lots of books right now. I'm writing a book on rolling that's coming out this summer, and then I'll be writing a book on sitting, and then I will be able to get to the crawling book. But again, this is why I feel like this information needs to be on the internet, because it is complicated. And parents are so capable if they were just given the opportunity to have some of these tools and know how those tools fit together. Okay, so now we're looking at some of those specifics of crawling. And so some of the specifics again of crawling are like rocking on all fours, being able to hold the all four position, transitioning in and out of crawling. So any of these exercises that really like talk about crawling specifically, like especially these 1 through 4 in the crawling playlist, are going to be more of those crawling specific coordination exercises. The other things that you really want to look at is having this and learn how to improve trunk control in babies. This one, we're getting both of our arms on one side, and that's really important to be able to transition from sitting to all fours. And so hopefully this will go quick. Okay, so here I'm working on that trunk rotation, but also trying to get her to bring her right arm over to the left side of her body. And that's a really important skill. So we call that crossing midline in the peds world. And that's really important for babies. If a baby is struggling with bringing both arms to one side, then you're going to want to go back to those TMR or stretching videos to work on trunk rotation. So that's a good way to check, hey, if I put a toy to the side of, can my baby bring that arm to the side, or do they really fight it, go into extension, pull out of it, not have it, make it seem like it doesn't feel very comfortable. You can, to make it harder, I'm going to put the toy on my leg / over my leg, and I'm going to try to engage her opposite arm. It's clearly not working out the way I intend it to, but you can see my hand, I'm using a hand to underhand technique here. I'm trying to block the other arm, so she has to use the arm that then results in trunk rotation to play with that moose. Okay, so that was all the things that I would look at. Again, I know that is really tough. So I did want to answer some of the questions for the those that are on live, they may or may not have to do with crawling, so just bear with me here. Bindrani, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I'm not. Asks, my daughter is rolling to her right side, but not to her left side. If she supports her, then she can turn to the left, but not independently with arm strength exercises. She's doing it 1 to 2 times a day. Her baby is 6 months, and I believe she's saying she can sit with support, but we can kind of clarify that in a second. So it is typical at a certain point for a baby to have a preference with rolling, but we want to make sure that they're able to roll to both sides. So since this baby is 6 months and likely has head control, Bindrani, a lot of these exercises in sitting where you're actually bringing your hands to one side to play with a toy like this one. So this exercise actually would be helpful for rolling as well. I want to make sure I'll drop the link actually to the rolling playlist, because that's the one that's probably going to help you the most. See if I can find that for you. Okay, so here is that. Let me get that playlist. And some of these are going to be the same. I'm going to drop that in the comments. Let me know if that doesn't get to you right away. If it doesn't, then I can add it. I can add it after the live stream is done. But basically, the exercises that would be similar that you might want to try are the same, kind of the neck one where the baby is going backwards over a stability ball. If you don't have a stability ball, you can hold the baby and just kind of tilt them backwards as long as they have head control and are supported. You're just looking for that like backwards bending type motion. The baby tornado exercise would probably be really good. You do want to kind of make sure you can do about 10 pull to sits with the support behind the shoulders. I would look at this TMR, upper trunk, lower trunk, as well as the stretch here. We didn't talk a lot about side bending, but this video will go through if a baby is tight in one direction and what to do with that. This can impact crawling and rolling. I was just trying to keep the video a little bit shorter than a million hours long, but you know, with me, you can't really count on that. So this would be a really good one to look at too. And then especially if belly to back is a struggle, you want to make sure that a baby can weight bear through one arm and reach with the other, and do that equally on both sides. Now, some of these other ones aren't out yet. I have scheduled videos out for the end of the year, so there are going to be some ones kind of coming up, but hopefully that at least gave you a place to start as far as rolling. But rolling is really important to continue to work on both sides. If a baby is struggling going to one side and not the other, like here she said she's rolling to the right but not to the left, my guess would be that when you test her rotation, it will be easier going to the right and more limited going to the left, because if I roll from my back to my belly going to the right, I have to bring both my arms to the right side, and my trunk also goes to the right. So that would be right rotation. If she can do that side independently, that side is likely easier. If she can't do the left, she likely has some limitation in left upper trunk rotation. And so with the TMR approach, you would want to go into the direction of ease, which is the tight side, which is the easy side. Hold that side. So for her, you would likely do right arm under the armpits, left arm through, and pull. On the hips, I don't have my baby with me. Give me 1 second. but that would be this one, right? So if it's easier for her to go to the right and I test right rotation and this is easier than left rotation, then I'm going to put my right arm underneath. My left arm is going to go through the front of the legs. I'm going to come on their right butt cheek. I'm going to hug them against my chest, and I'm going to gently go as far as they let me go. I'm going to hold them in this position for 2 to 5 minutes, and then I'm going to follow it up with 30 seconds to a minute of bouncing. And then I'm going to see, okay, after that, is rolling easier? The last one I would do for rolling specifically is these last two directions. Test this if a baby's struggling with rolling or crawling. This is the side bend one, and then how to help an infant learn to roll over using a trunk rotation exercise. This would be really good too. So those are the other ones I would work on, Bindrani, and hopefully that is helpful. If you have more questions, make sure that you just drop them in the comment and I will make sure that I can address. Again, if it is a more involved answer, I will do another live and hopefully be able to help you walk you guys through some of these really complex topics. And then obviously kind of help you, hopefully when those books are written, then I can just like drop the links and it's my whole philosophy all in one spot. If you do have more questions, make sure you drop them in the comments. And I really just love sharing PT information with you guys so that you can help understand how your baby is moving and help influence them and help them move better with some strategic play positions and exercises that you guys can safely do and feel comfortable doing. So I hope you enjoy, and definitely make sure you let me know if you have any more questions.